The twin suns of the desert planet scorched the battlefield as Darius Ven tightened his grip on his plasma blade. The human mercenary stood out against the towering forms of the alien warriors surrounding him. Their leader, Lord Krothak, stepped forward, an imposing figure of muscle and wealth, draped in gilded armor that shimmered under the relentless sunlight. "You should not have come here, human," Krothak growled, his voice like grinding stone. Darius smirked, wiping sweat from his brow. "Yeah, well, someone's got to teach you not to enslave colonies that don't belong to you." The alien warriors roared in anger, but Krothak raised a clawed hand, silencing them. "You are brave, but bravery alone cannot save you." He lifted his enormous energy axe, its edges glowing a deadly red. The fight began. Darius darted forward, his movements a blur compared to the bulky Krothak. The alien swung his axe, and the ground shook with the impact. Darius rolled away just in time, his boots kicking up sand. Krothak roared and charged again, his strikes relentless. Darius knew he couldn't match Krothak in raw strength, but humans were known for their adaptability and wit, traits that often outclassed brute force. He studied Krothak's movements, noticing the alien's overconfidence and slight hesitation before each swing. "You're slower than I thought," Darius taunted, circling the alien leader. Krothak snarled and lunged, but this time Darius was ready. The human sidestepped, slashing his plasma blade across Krothak's exposed flank. Sparks flew, and the warlord roared in pain. The alien warriors watched in stunned silence as their mighty leader staggered. Darius didn't relent. He used his agility to outmaneuver Krothak, delivering calculated strikes to wear him down. Finally, with one precise blow, Darius disarmed Krothak, sending the energy axe crashing to the ground. The alien fell to his knees, blood dripping from his wounds. The battlefield fell silent, the twin suns casting long shadows over the scene. Darius pointed his plasma blade at Krothak's throat. "Surrender." Krothak's lips curled into a bitter smile. "You are stronger than you look, human. By the laws of my clan, you are now the victor." Before Darius could respond, the warriors surrounding them bowed their heads in unison. Confused, he lowered his weapon. "What's going on?" Darius asked, his voice wary. An elder alien stepped forward, his tone reverent. "You have defeated Lord Krothak in combat. As per our customs, his title, his wealth, and—" The elder hesitated. "His wives now belong to you." Darius blinked. "Wait, what? Wives?" Two figures emerged from the crowd, stepping forward. One was regal and composed, her violet skin shimmering like polished stone. The other glared at him, her fiery gaze sharp enough to cut through steel. "You cannot refuse," the elder added solemnly. Darius sighed, staring at the alien women and the expectant warriors. This is going to be complicated. Darius stood frozen, his mind racing to process what had just happened. Around him, the alien warriors were chanting a strange, rhythmic song of respect, honoring his unexpected victory. But all he could focus on were the two women standing before him. Lord Krothak's wives. The first woman, Zihara, carried herself with an air of elegance and calm. Her tall frame and shimmering violet skin radiated grace, and her golden eyes studied Darius with quiet curiosity. She looked more like a queen than a defeated warlord's wife. The second woman, Valexa, was the complete opposite. Her crimson hair fell in wild waves, and her defiant glare felt like a laser aimed directly at Darius' soul. Her sharp, metallic armor still bore traces of battle, and her clenched fists hinted at barely restrained fury. Darius cleared his throat, breaking the awkward silence. "Look, I don't know what kind of tradition this is, but I'm not interested in." "You don't have a choice," Valexa snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. "You won. That makes you responsible for us now. Congratulations, human." Darius raised an eyebrow. "Responsible? I didn't sign up for this." The elder alien who had spoken earlier stepped forward again, bowing his head. Our laws are sacred. By defeating Lord Krothak, you have inherited his title, his possessions, and his family. Refusing would bring dishonor upon you, and upon us." Zihara spoke for the first time, her voice soft but firm. "The elder speaks the truth. We may not like it, but these are the rules of our clan. You are bound to us now, as we are to you." Darius sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. "Great, just great." The warriors began to disperse, murmuring amongst themselves about the unusual outcome of the battle. Some bowed respectfully to Darius as they left, while others cast skeptical glances at the human. Now alone with Zihara and Velexa, Darius felt the full weight of the situation pressing down on him. "So, what happens now?" he asked, looking at the two women. Zihara inclined her head gracefully. "Now we follow you. It is tradition that the victor must lead. Whether you like it or not, we are bound to you." Velexa crossed her arms, her fiery gaze never leaving Darius. "Let's get one thing straight. I'm only here because I have no choice. Don't think for a second that I'm going to make this easy for you, human." "Noted," Darius muttered, resisting the urge to roll his eyes. Zihara stepped closer, her golden eyes locking onto his. "You may not understand our customs, but you must tread carefully. Krothak was powerful, and his defeat will not go unnoticed. There are those who will see your victory as an insult, and they will come for you." Darius sighed again, his shoulders slumping. Of course they will. Why wouldn't they? As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the desert in cool shadows, Darius realized one thing. His problems had only just begun. The following days on the desert planet were tense. Darius had hoped that, after his victory over Krothak, things would settle down. But instead, he found himself navigating a web of strange customs and traditions. The clan demanded that he participate in a formal ceremony to solidify his new position as their leader. Darius had no choice but to comply. Zihara, as calm and composed as ever, explained the importance of the ceremony. It was a public acknowledgement of his victory and his right to rule. "You will be presented before the clan, and they will bow to you as their new leader," Zihara explained, her golden eyes shining. "But know that there will be those who will test you, especially in the beginning. Your strength is not only in battle, but in your ability to lead." Darius didn't like the sound of that. He was a soldier, not a ruler, and he definitely wasn't ready for whatever was coming next. But he had no choice. The alien warriors weren't going to let him out of it. The ceremony began at dawn. Darius stood before a massive stone platform in the center of the clan's settlement, flanked by Zihara and Velexa. The crowd of alien warriors gathered, murmuring in anticipation. Darius felt the weight of their gazes on him. Some looked at him with admiration, others with suspicion. But the most intense eyes were those of Velexa. Her arms were crossed tightly, and her lips were pressed into a thin line. "Remember," Zihara whispered to him before the ceremony began, "this is not just about you. It is about securing our place in the clan. Show them you are worthy." The ceremony began with chants in a language Darius couldn't understand. The elder approached him, holding a large ceremonial dagger, its blade glowing with ancient energy. "You have proven yourself in battle," the elder said. "Now you will prove yourself as a ruler." Darius steeled himself as the elder raised the dagger, offering it to him. "Take it, and show your strength to the clan." Darius took the dagger, feeling its weight in his hand. The crowd grew silent. For a moment, all he could hear was the pounding of his own heart. "Now speak to them," Zihara urged quietly. Darius wasn't good with speeches. He was a fighter, not a leader. But he had no choice. He raised the dagger high, trying to steady his shaking hand. "I don't know your ways," he began, his voice steady despite the nervousness swirling inside him. "But I do know this. I'm not here to be a king or a lord. I'm here to survive, and to make sure we all survive. If that means we work together, then that's what we'll do." The crowd murmured, and for a brief moment, Darius wondered if he had said the wrong thing. But Zahara's voice reached his ear. You did well. They respect strength, and you gave them that. Velexa, however, did not look impressed. She stood with her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. You're no Krothak, she muttered under her breath. Darius turned to her, meeting her gaze. I never intended to be. Velexa met his gaze for a long moment before turning away. Darius couldn't tell if that was a good sign or a bad one, but he knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning. Days passed after the ceremony, and Darius found himself adjusting to his new role as leader of the clan. It wasn't easy. The alien warriors were still skeptical, and Velexa, in particular, made no effort to hide her disdain for him. Yet, despite her resistance, there was something about her fiery nature that Darius couldn't ignore. Zahara, on the other hand, remained calm and supportive. Her insights into the clan's politics were invaluable, and slowly, Darius began to understand the delicate balance required to maintain control. However, he knew his victory had made enemies. The quiet murmurings in the halls of the clan were hard to ignore. He could feel the tension in the air, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. One evening, Zahara summoned Darius to a private meeting. Her usually composed face was now filled with concern. I've been hearing whispers, Zahara began, her voice low. Not everyone is happy with your leadership. There are those who think you're a threat to their power, and they're planning something. Darius frowned. Who are they? I don't know for sure, Zahara replied, her golden eyes scanning the room as if to make sure they weren't being watched. But I have reason to believe that a faction within the clan is plotting against you. They are loyal to Krothak, and they see you as nothing more than a human outsider. Darius's mind raced. He hadn't expected this kind of internal conflict. What do they want? Zahara hesitated. They want the artifact, the one Krothak kept hidden. It's a powerful weapon, one that could change the course of the galaxy if it falls into the wrong hands. Darius's eyes narrowed. So they want to take it from me? Yes, she said, her voice steady. But they don't just want the artifact. They want to remove you. They'll do whatever it takes to reclaim what they believe is theirs. Darius rubbed his chin thoughtfully. He knew he couldn't face this threat alone. He needed help. We'll have to act fast. Do you know where they're hiding? Zahara nodded. I have a lead. There's an old temple in the northern desert, a place Krothak visited often. I believe that's where the faction is meeting. Darius looked at her, weighing his options. We'll go there, but we need to be careful. If they're planning something, it's not just a simple power struggle. Zahara's expression hardened. I'll come with you. But we must be prepared for the worst. As they made plans to leave for the northern desert, Velexa appeared at the doorway, her eyes fierce. I'm coming with you, she declared, her tone unwavering. Darius turned to her, surprised. Why would you help me? Velexa's gaze was cold but steady. Because I want to see if you can survive this. And because, despite everything, you're the one who defeated Krothak. I'll give you one chance to prove you're worth following. Darius met her gaze, and for the first time, he saw a hint of respect in her eyes. Fine, he said. We'll go together, but if this turns out to be a trap, we stick together. Zahara nodded in agreement. We have no other choice. And so, they set out under the cover of night, unaware that their journey would uncover far more than they expected. The shadows of betrayal were already closing in, and Darius would soon learn that the biggest threats often came from within. The northern desert was a place of endless sand and scorching heat. Darius, Zahara, and Alexa rode on the backs of large desert creatures, their bodies covered in protective cloaks to shield them from the burning sun. The journey was long and silent, each of them lost in their thoughts. Darius kept a tight grip on the reins, his mind still turning over the information Zahara had given him about the faction's plans. The temple Zahara had mentioned was a ruin hidden deep in the desert. It was said to be a place of great power, a relic from an ancient time, long forgotten by most of the galaxy. Krothak had visited it often, and that was enough to raise Darius's suspicions. As they approached the temple, the sand dunes gave way to jagged rock formations. The temple loomed in the distance, a crumbling structure that seemed to belong to another era. It was clear that no one had entered it in years, but something about the place felt alive with energy. Darius's senses were on high alert. "We're here," Zihara said quietly as they dismounted. Her eyes scanned the surroundings, ever watchful. "Stay close. This place is not what it seems." Darius nodded, keeping his hand close to his weapon. Valexa, ever defiant, strode ahead, her eyes scanning the shadows. They entered the temple cautiously, the air thick with dust and ancient power. The walls were covered in strange symbols, and the faint glow of long-dead lights flickered from the stone ceiling. "This place is strange," Darius muttered, his voice echoing through the empty halls. Zihara stopped in front of a massive door, its surface etched with more of the unfamiliar symbols. "This is it," she said, her tone serious. "Behind this door lies the vault where Krothak kept the artifact." Valexa stepped forward. "Let's get it, and get out of here. If this is really as dangerous as you say, then we can't afford to waste time." Darius agreed. "Stay sharp. We don't know what we'll find inside." With a steady hand, Zihara pushed open the door, revealing a hidden chamber bathed in soft, eerie light. In the center of the room, on a pedestal, lay a glowing orb. It hummed with an energy that seemed to vibrate through the air. Darius's breath caught in his throat. This was it, the artifact Krothak had kept hidden, and the key to his power. Before Darius could step forward, a voice rang out from the shadows. "I see you found it." The voice was familiar, and Darius immediately tensed. Stepping into the light was a figure he hadn't expected. Krothak's former second-in-command, Talger. A tall, wiry alien with piercing eyes. He smirked at Darius's surprised expression. "You," Darius growled, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "What are you doing here?" Talger's grin widened. "I've been watching. You thought you could take everything from Krothak, but you were wrong. I've been waiting for this moment." Zihara's eyes narrowed. "You betrayed us, Talger. You betrayed Krothak." Talger stepped closer to the pedestal, his hand hovering over the artifact. "Krothak was a fool. He never understood the true power of this artifact. But I do." Darius could feel the tension rising in the room. "You're not going to get away with this," he said firmly. "Oh, but I already have," Talger replied, his eyes flicking to the dark corners of the room where several armed warriors stepped into view. "You've walked right into my trap, human." A cold shiver ran down Darius's spine as he realized the full extent of the betrayal. He had come to take control, but now he was caught in a web of lies, and Talger was in control. Zihara's voice was sharp. "We won't let you take the artifact." Talger laughed, his grin widening. "Then try to stop me." The room erupted into chaos as Darius, Zihara, and Valexa prepared for a fight. The stakes had never been higher. If Talger succeeded in taking the artifact, everything Darius had worked for would be lost. But if they failed, the galaxy could be in danger. The chamber erupted into chaos. Talger's warriors surged forward, their weapons drawn, ready to fight. Darius's heart raced, but his training took over. He had fought in countless battles, but this was different. This time, it wasn't just about survival. It was about protecting the galaxy from something far more dangerous. Darius drew his plasma blade and immediately lunged at the nearest warrior. The alien's weapon clashed with his, but Darius was faster, his movements honed through years of combat. He twisted his blade and disarmed the alien in a swift motion, sending the warrior stumbling back. Zihara and Valexa were already engaged in their own battles, each of them fighting with fierce determination. Zihara's elegance in battle was unmatched, her every move calculated and precise. She used the environment to her advantage, her golden eyes always assessing the best way to strike. She struck down two of Talger's warriors in a blur of motion, her weapon a deadly extension of her will. Velexa, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of fury. Her fiery spirit burned brightly as she fought, her anger at the betrayal fueling her strikes. She moved with speed and power, knocking opponents aside with ease. But her eyes never left Talger. She was focused on one thing: stopping him from getting his hands on the artifact. Talger watched from the shadows, a smirk still on his face as he moved toward the pedestal. He reached out to touch the glowing orb, but before his hand could make contact, Darius was on him. "Not so fast," Darius growled, stepping between Talger and the artifact. Talger chuckled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "You're brave, human, but you're out of your league." "You're the one who's out of your league," Darius retorted, swinging his plasma blade in a powerful arc. Talger barely managed to block the attack, his own weapon a curved blade that crackled with energy. The two clashed, their weapons sparking with each strike. Darius pushed Talger back, his mind sharp, thinking several steps ahead. Talger was skilled, but Darius had something he didn't: human ingenuity. He feigned a weak strike, baiting Talger into overextending, then quickly countered with a powerful blow that sent Talger stumbling back. But Talger wasn't finished. With a fierce growl, he activated a hidden mechanism in his armor, releasing a cloud of smoke that filled the room. Darius coughed and shielded his eyes, but the moment of confusion allowed Talger to make his move. Before Darius could react, Talger lunged at the artifact. "Stop him," Zihara shouted, her voice sharp with panic. Velexa, already in motion, sprang toward Talger, leaping with surprising agility for someone so tall. She landed between him and the artifact, her blade raised. "You'll have to go through me first," she snarled, her voice full of venom. Talger grinned, unfazed by her defiance. "You really think you can stop me, woman?" he sneered. But what Talger didn't anticipate was the unity between Darius, Zihara, and Velexa. They were no longer just a group of people thrown together by fate. They had become something stronger. They'd moved as one, each anticipating the other's moves, working together seamlessly in a way Talger had never seen before. Darius lunged again, this time catching Talger off guard. He slashed at the alien's weapon, knocking it from his hand. As Talger stumbled, Zihara swiftly stepped in, blocking his retreat. With nowhere to go, Talger raised his hands in mock surrender. "You think you've won." Talger spat, his eyes burning with fury. "This isn't over. You've only delayed the inevitable." Darius kept his plasma blade raised, ready for whatever came next. "Maybe," he said, his voice calm but filled with determination. "But we'll make sure it never happens." Velexa stood beside him, her chest heaving from the fight. "You'll never touch that artifact again." With Talger and his warriors subdued, the room fell silent, save for the soft hum of the glowing artifact. Darius, Zihara, and Velexa looked at each other, understanding the weight of what had just transpired. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Together, they had proven that despite their differences, they were stronger when united. And Darius knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning. The quiet after the battle felt almost unnatural. Talger and his warriors were bound, their weapons confiscated, and they were now under the guard of the surviving members of the clan who had been loyal to Darius. But the victory came at a cost. The weight of what they had uncovered in the temple still hung heavy in the air. The artifact, now secured, pulsed faintly with an unsettling energy. Darius couldn't shake the feeling that they had just scratched the surface of something much bigger, something that could alter the balance of power across the galaxy. As the group gathered in the temple's main hall to regroup, Zihara stood by the pedestal, her golden eyes fixated on the artifact. "Krafak didn't just hide this for power," she said, her voice low. "This thing, it's far more dangerous than we realize." Velexa, who had been pacing the room, stopped and glanced over at Zihara. "You said that before. But what exactly is it?" What kind of weapon is this? Zihara turned to her. It's not just a weapon, Velexa. This artifact has the ability to control entire systems. The technology embedded within it is ancient, far older than anything Krothic knew about. I've seen records from lost civilizations. They believe this object could change the fate of entire species. Darius's stomach tightened. He had thought they were just dealing with a simple power struggle, a dispute over a warlord's wealth. But this was something else entirely. We have to destroy it, Darius said firmly, his voice filled with resolve. Zihara shook her head slowly. It's not that simple. If we destroy it without understanding how it works, we might unleash something even worse. The technology within it could be the key to a war unlike anything the galaxy has seen. A tense silence filled the room. Darius wanted to argue. He wanted to destroy it immediately, to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. But he knew Zihara was right. Rushing into a decision without understanding the artifact's true power could cost them everything. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. "You're right about one thing," said Talger, who had been silently watching from where he was bound. "This artifact has the power to change everything. But you don't understand how it works, do you? You don't understand the sacrifice it requires." Darius turned sharply, his gaze narrowing. "What do you mean by that?" Talger's smirk was cold. "You think this is just a simple artifact of destruction. No, it's much more. It requires a bond, a sacrifice, a soul. Whoever controls it must give up something of themselves. It's not about power. It's about control of the universe itself." Zihara took a step forward, her face a mixture of confusion and fear. "A soul? Are you saying it takes lives?" Talger laughed darkly. "Not just lives. It takes something more. I know how to unlock its true potential, but I'm not stupid enough to fall for its trap." Darius clenched his fists. "You don't control this. Not anymore." Talger's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. "You're not in control here, human. You never were." Before Darius could react, the ground beneath them trembled. A low hum filled the room, growing louder with every second. The artifact began to glow brighter, casting eerie shadows on the stone walls. Something had changed. Zihara's eyes widened. "It's activating. But why now?" A sudden realization struck Darius like a bolt of lightning. Talger wasn't the true threat. Something else was. The artifact itself had begun to respond, reacting to the betrayal, to the lies that had been hidden. It was alive, and it wasn't going to let anyone take it easily. Velexa stepped forward, her weapon raised. "We need to stop this now, before it's too late." Darius's mind raced. He had no idea what the artifact was about to do, but one thing was certain. It was about to reveal its true power. Without warning, the lights in the chamber flickered, and the walls seemed to close in around them. The hum grew louder, almost deafening. Darius felt the pressure building, and in that moment, he realized they had no time left. The artifact was about to make its move. "Prepare yourselves," Darius said, his voice steady despite the panic rising within him. "Whatever happens next, we face it together." The artifact's glow intensified, and a deep, rumbling voice echoed through the room. "You have chosen to defy me. Now you will face the consequences." The ground shook beneath them, the hum of the artifact now deafening. The walls of the temple seemed to ripple as the energy inside the glowing orb surged, turning the air thick with an electric charge. Darius's heart raced, his senses on high alert. The artifact wasn't just a tool of destruction. It was a living force, and it had been awakened. Zihara, her face pale but determined, stepped closer to the pedestal. "We need to stop it before it fully activates. If it gets any more power, nothing will be able to control it." Her voice was urgent, but calm, as if she had seen the power of the artifact before and knew just how dangerous it could be. "How do we stop it?" Darius asked, his mind racing for a solution. The walls were closing in. He could feel the pressure building. This wasn't just a physical battle. It was a battle of wills. Talger, still bound and lying on the floor, let out a low laugh. You think you can stop it? Foolish humans. The artifact cannot be controlled by your primitive methods. It's far beyond your understanding. His voice was mocking, but there was an edge of fear in it too. It was clear he knew more than he had let on. The hum of the artifact grew louder, now a steady, pulsating beat that seemed to echo through their bones. It was as if the artifact was calling to something. Something ancient and powerful, something that had been waiting for this moment. "We don't have much time," Valexa said, her voice sharp. She was the first to draw her weapon, scanning the room for any sign of movement. "If we don't act now, we'll be too late." Darius nodded. He knew they couldn't just stand around and wait for the artifact to destroy them all. He needed to think fast. "Zihara," Darius said, turning to her, "you said it requires a bond, a sacrifice. How do we break that? How do we stop it from claiming anyone?" Zihara's eyes widened, a thought flickering in her mind. "It's not just a physical sacrifice, it's a spiritual one. Whoever tries to control the artifact must give up something personal, something they can never get back. It could be their life, their essence, their very soul. That's the price." Darius's mind spun. He had no idea how to fight something that took away the very soul of its user. But there was one thing he did know. He wasn't going to let it control them. "I won't let it take anyone else," Darius said firmly. His voice was filled with determination. "We need to destroy it. And we need to do it now." Zihara glanced at him, her golden eyes filled with hesitation. "Destroying it may be the only way, but we have to be careful. If we do it wrong, we'll unleash its full power." Valexa stepped forward, her eyes sharp. "We don't have time for hesitation. We do it my way." Without warning, she charged forward, heading straight for the pedestal. Her weapon was raised, her body ready to strike. "Wait!" Zihara shouted, but it was too late. Velex's blade struck the pedestal with a resounding crash. A burst of energy exploded from the artifact, throwing everyone backward. The room shook violently, the energy from the orb spiraling out of control. Darius's vision blurred as he was thrown to the ground, the air thick with the sound of crashing stone and the deafening hum of the artifact. He struggled to get up, his body aching from the impact, and saw Valexa standing in front of the artifact, her eyes wide with shock. The energy was swirling around her, pulling at her, as if trying to claim her very soul. "Valexa," Darius shouted, rushing to her side. But it was clear she couldn't hear him over the roaring energy. She was caught in the artifact's grip. Zihara, too, was struggling to get up, her face pale with fear. "It's too strong," she whispered. "The bond. It's too powerful to break." Darius's mind raced. He knew they couldn't defeat it by force alone. There had to be another way, another method of fighting it. Something human, something the artifact couldn't anticipate. Suddenly, Darius remembered the one thing that had always set humanity apart from the rest: their ability to adapt, to outthink their opponents, to never give up. With that thought, he made a decision. "Zihara, help me," he shouted. "We need to use the artifact's power against it." Zihara nodded, understanding his plan. Together, they moved quickly, working in perfect sync. As Darius distracted the artifact's energy, Zihara focused on the pedestal, reaching out with a mind sharp and steady. The artifact's energy crackled around them, but Darius felt a flicker of hope. This was their chance. Would they succeed, or would the artifact's power consume them all? The energy from the artifact roared around them, a storm of power and light that threatened to swallow everything. Darius could feel the pressure on his chest, the very air itself vibrating with the intensity of the artifact's will. But he didn't back down. He couldn't. This wasn't just about survival. It was about stopping something that could destroy everything they knew. Zihara's voice cut through the chaos, calm and steady despite the raging power around them. "We need to focus its energy. If we can use the artifact's force against itself, we can destroy it, but we have to be in perfect sync. Darius nodded, understanding the plan. We don't have much time. We act now, or we risk losing everything. He could feel the artifact's energy pulling at him, trying to draw him in, but he resisted. With every ounce of willpower he had, he focused on the pedestal, on the artifact's core. He could feel Zahara's presence beside him, her mind working alongside his, a steady beacon in the midst of the storm. Together, they reached out, both of them pushing their thoughts toward the artifact, trying to harness its energy, to guide it toward destruction. But the artifact was powerful, its will stubborn, refusing to be controlled. Velexa's voice cut through the tension. Hurry. It's too much. Darius turned to her, seeing her struggle against the swirling energy, but she was still standing, still fighting. Her defiance, her strength, gave him the push he needed. He couldn't fail. Not now. Zahara's voice whispered in his ear, focus on its core. We need to break the bond between the artifact and the source of its power. Darius took a deep breath and did as she said. He focused every part of himself on the center of the artifact, searching for the weak point, the place where the energy could be disrupted. His mind touched something ancient and raw. The moment he made contact, the artifact's energy flared, growing more intense, threatening to overwhelm him. But Darius pressed on, his grip on the artifact's core firm. Now, he shouted. Zahara reached out with her mind, pushing all of her energy into the artifact. The combined force of their wills slammed into the artifact, and for a split second, everything went dark. When the light returned, the hum of the artifact had vanished. The air was still. The chamber, once filled with the crackling energy of the artifact, was now quiet. Darius opened his eyes, blinking against the sudden silence. The artifact lay before them, its glow dimmed, its power extinguished. It was no longer a threat. He turned to Zahara and Velexa, both of them staring at the artifact in disbelief. We did it, Zahara whispered, her voice full of awe. It's over. Velexa, still breathing heavily, looked at Darius with something like respect in her eyes. I didn't think you could do it, she said, her voice filled with grudging admiration. But you did. You actually did. Darius felt a small smile tug at his lips. We did it together. The room was silent for a moment, and then Zahara spoke again. The artifact is gone. The galaxy is safe for now, but we have much to rebuild. Krothak's legacy is shattered, and there are others out there who will want to take his place. Darius nodded. We'll deal with that when the time comes. For the first time since his arrival on the planet, Darius felt a sense of peace. The battle was over, but the journey wasn't. There would be more challenges, more fights to come, but for now, he knew they had won. They had saved the galaxy from something far more dangerous than any of them could have imagined. Together, they had faced the impossible and had come out on top. The future was uncertain, but Darius knew one thing for sure. He wasn't alone. The three of them stood together, facing the path ahead, and whatever came next, they would face it as a team. The sun set on the desert planet, casting long shadows over the ruins of the temple where the final battle had taken place. The once dangerous artifact lay silent, its power extinguished, leaving only a quiet echo in the air. For the first time in what felt like forever, Darius allowed himself to breathe a little easier. He stood beside Zahara and Velexa, both women who had once seen him as an outsider, but now shared a bond of trust and respect, forged through the trials they had faced together. The future of the alien clan was uncertain, but one thing was clear: their journey wasn't over. They had not only survived the greatest threat they had ever faced, but they had come out stronger, united in a way they never would have been without the trials that had tested them. We did it, Darius said, his voice steady but filled with a quiet satisfaction. We actually did it. He glanced at Zahara, who stood beside him, her golden eyes scanning the horizon. She had been the steady force that had guided him through the chaos, And now, in the quiet aftermath, he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude toward her. Zahara met his gaze, a faint smile playing at the corners of her lips. Yes, we did. But it's not over yet. She gestured to the desert around them, where the ruins of Krothak's empire stood as a reminder of what had been, and what still needed to be rebuilt. Darius nodded. I know. There will be others who want the power that Krothak once held. But we'll be ready. Together, we can stop them. Velexa, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. She had been an unwilling participant in this strange new life at first, but Darius had earned her respect. She had fought beside him, and she had seen firsthand that he was capable of far more than just surviving. He was a leader, someone who understood the importance of teamwork, and someone who never gave up, even when the odds were against him. Don't think for a second that I'm going to make this easy for you, human, Velexa said with a smirk, but there was no malice in her words. But I'll fight by your side. If the galaxy's going to change, we might as well make sure it changes for the better. Darius smiled, feeling the warmth spread through him. I'm glad to hear that, Velexa. Zahara looked between them, her gaze thoughtful. There will be many challenges ahead, but with the right people by your side, nothing is impossible. For a moment, the three of them stood in silence, watching the twin suns dip below the horizon. The galaxy had changed forever with the defeat of Krothak and the destruction of the artifact. But as Darius looked at Zahara and Velexa, he knew that the most important change had happened within them. They had come to see the strength of humanity, not just in battle, but in the power to adapt, to think beyond simple survival, and to work together toward a common goal. Let's go, Darius said, breaking the silence. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Zahara nodded, her golden eyes shining with determination. Yes, we do. Velexa smirked. But for now, we rest. We've earned it. With that, the three of them turned and walked away from the temple ruins, leaving behind the past and stepping forward into an uncertain future. But as they walked together, side by side, Darius knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, stronger than ever before. Humanity had proven its strength, not just through power or war, but through courage, resilience, and the ability to build something new, even in the face of overwhelming odds. And as Darius looked toward the horizon, he knew that this was just the beginning of a new era, one where humanity's legacy would shape the future of the galaxy.